What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and disappointed again. It's really frustrating for me because not only am I frustrated with these past two results, but the added frustration of the fact that Mercedes-Benz Stadium not being done is the reason why, or well, not the reason why, but a big part of the reason why we're just struggling right now. It just sort of adds it all together. I'm super frustrated that we get ahead of steam. We're off for 2 weeks. We come back for 3 games. We win. We draw. We're off for 2 weeks. And then we come back, play two of the worst teams in our side of the bracket. And we lose and we draw. That's frustrating. It really is. And so watching this game, it wasn't as bad as the DC game. You know, the DC game was just a lack of effort all around the field. You know, except for a few players that did try. There were just players that gave up, that were trying to do everything on their own. Instead of playing like a team, it looked like a team of individuals. It was a really frustrating game to watch. This one was slightly better, but there's still so many stupid decisions being made, so many giveaways, a lack of defending at times. It's just really frustrating that we cannot seem to get going and then keep the momentum. So, you know, ending on a draw away from home is not a terrible result, but the performance that went with it, in my opinion, makes it a terrible result. We did not deserve to save a point there. So first of all, let me talk about the lineup, because I have some issues with Tata right now. I have some serious issues with some of his decisions. Carmona's out. 5 yellows, so he's missed this game. You got to put somebody in there. My first thought is Kevin Kratz. You know, he's not a special player, he's not a great player, but not only does he work harder than Carmona did last game, for sure, he keeps it simple, and he fights to win the ball back. Two qualities that make him a great asset in the middle of the field. He's not a tall or big body, but you have Jeff Larentowicz in there, so you don't need a tall or big body. What does he do? Throws on Chris McCann. The only thing Chris McCann brings you is he's tall. He can win the ball in the air. Like I said, we've already got Jeff Larentowicz for that. We don't need another big body in there. So already I'm off to a frustrated start. I'm like, why isn't Kevin starting? Why is it Chris? Kevin deserves it. You know, he's worked so hard to pretty much fight for a place in the first team. He started a couple games and then had to go get his green card, and all of a sudden he's just not in the team at all. Okay, why? You know, he went and got his green card, so now we have another international slot opened up. He actually helped us by doing that. And you're rewarding him by sitting him on the bench and not even playing him, even though he's probably one of our better players. You know, not technically, but his work ethic makes him one of our better players. So I'm already frustrated there. And then on top of that, you look at the subs in the second half, and just practically none of them make sense. You look at the first one, you bring off Michael Parkhurst. Already stupid decision, because of the two center backs, not only is he the more solid one, but Perez's passes are terrible. You know, you would think you got Parkhurst, who's the better defender. Maybe Perez is better with his feet and better passing. He's better with his feet. You know, he's quick, he's strong, he can dribble through people. But when he goes to pass it, 50% of the time to the other team. Michael, I hardly ever see him give up the ball. If it is, it's because the player that was on the end of it had a bad touch and it ends up going to a defender, or they stopped a run that probably would have been on the end of the pass, and now it's to the other team. But I never see him give away stupid, cheap possession. You know, he's very smart on the ball. He's very solid. He reads the game very well, so there are never any real problems with him. You take him off the field, now we've got a problem. Obviously, with Jeff going back there, he does cover that hole enough, but you still got Perez back there, who's just a liability and doesn't really provide anything going forward for you. So I have an issue with that. On top of that, you bring on Julian, and just he provides nothing. You know, once again, we're in need of a spark. We're in need of somebody to come on and change the game. He's not it. He's not fast enough. He doesn't pass well enough. He's not quick enough to change anything. He just comes on and he runs around for a bit and, you know, sometimes puts pressure on people. But for the most part, he's just another player. You know, he's just another person out there on the field standing around. Sometimes gets on the ball. Most of the time gives it away, though. It's frustrating. Next two changes. You bring on Peterson, not a bad change. You take off Villalba, also not a bad change. He really wasn't doing much for us. So that one makes sense, but at the same time, you bring on Mears for walks. There's a problem. I get that Tyrone can cross the ball better than Anton can. I get that. Anton still needs a lot of work on his crosses. His deliverance is terrible. Most of the time it ends up going over everybody, or it's right to the first defender in front of him. I get his deliverance, his whatever distribution isn't great. I understand that. However, he's a better defender. And when you're trying to push for an equalizer, when you're trying to throw everything you've got going forward, trying to get an equalizer, the one thing you want to make sure of is don't leave yourself open at the back to get embarrassed and all of a sudden now it's 3-1. You already took off Michael. Now you're taking off Anton to bring on Tyrone, who's not as good of a defender as Anton is. You're leaving yourself open at the back. If it weren't for the fact that they were down to 10 men, and even then, they still looked like they had some of the better chances laid on. I mean, we came close to getting really embarrassed here just because of these decisions. And ultimately, even though he does score the winning or the equalizing goal, ultimately the idea of bringing on somebody who's a better distributor, somebody who's a better crosser, doesn't make any sense because you've wasted all your subs and you've still got Brandon Vasquez on the bench, and he's somebody who can actually get on the end of one. Joseph, when he was on fire, when he was playing, he could do it. But the past 2 games he showed he's not in the same mindset anymore. He's not the same player he was before he was hurt again. He's lazier now. He's not moving as much. He's kind of standing in the middle waiting for something to happen instead of making something happen. So clearly bringing on a crosser at this point without Vasquez on the field just brings nothing for you. So thankfully, mistakes were made. Keeper comes out when he shouldn't have. Doesn't really get a good clean fist to it. Tyrone just happens to be there. Gets lucky on his header because it's more of a looping header up over the keeper and the defender. We got very lucky to get that equalizing goal. The decisions that were made beforehand, the substitutions that were made, we should not have been in this game. We should not have come back and tied it up. So let's look at individual performances. Brad Guzan, once again, he is the reason why we're still staying in some of these games. The win at Orlando, he kept us in it 3 or 4 times. The draw at against Orlando at home kept us in it. Sporting Kansas City kept us in that game. He makes so many great saves that just keeps us in games. It's just unfortunate that there are a few moments where the defense sort of turns off and leaves him stranded. One-on-one chance, a chance at the back post that just nobody's covering. Yeah, it's frustrating. And it's got to be frustrating for him coming from a team, Aston Villa, where he was constantly bombarded by shots, coming to an Atlanta United team that should be better in a league that's not really as good, and they're still just letting him get bombarded by shots because there's a lack of effort by a couple players. So I hate it for him, but at the same time I love having him in because he really does save us quite a few times. Anton walks right back again. Still good defensively, but like I said, just doesn't provide anything going forward for us. His passes are slow. When he gets on the ball, his dribbling is just kind of like, touch, 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 going nowhere. He doesn't really help us going forward at all. And, that is why Tyrone was brought in the second half. But defensively, though, he provides a lot for us. He keeps us, from being too exposed at the back. There were a couple times where he got drawn out of position. But for the most part, he was solid. Michael in the middle, again, just like I said, he's our solid center back. His passes are good out of the back. He really does start a lot of our moves. If only there was more movement up top to sort of finish off the moves. But yeah, all these people were criticizing him after the DC United game, I suppose because he scored the own goal. If you were criticizing him after that game, you clearly don't know anything about football because he is really our center back. He is the solid one. He is the one that's not going to get drawn into stupid challenges, that's not going to get pulled out of defense, that's not going to give the ball away in dangerous situations. He's very solid at what he does, and he keeps us pretty much anchored in the back. Perez on the other side, like I said before, giveaways, dangerous defender, liability. He is very big and strong and fast, and that is what he provides. Very good physical ability. But that's about it. He doesn't really provide it. He's not a smart defender. He kind of gets drawn into challenges he shouldn't. He's going in and knocking players over. Most of the time they do flop, but the referees call that, so don't give the chance to the referee to call it. Don't put yourself in that situation. But he continues to, time after time, and continues to give the other team chance after chance. So it's frustrating to watch. And then Greg on the left side just he kind of floats in and out of the game. Defensively, he gets drawn out of position a lot, doesn't really recover very well. But he does have moments where he sort of pops up with a moment of, oh, that's a great pass, that's a great move, that's a great cross. He just needs to cut out the mistakes from his game, cut out the moments where he turns off entirely, because that's where it really hurts us. The first goal, obviously there were problems elsewhere around the field, but Perez is marking the guy in front of him, and then there's a guy making a breaking run in behind. Greg should be there, but he's not. He's pushed way out wide, not helping out at all. So moments like that are where he needs to turn on. He needs to make sure he's in the right position, helping out defensively, because we're leaking goals right now. And, as much as people probably watch this league and just think, oh, that's all about scoring, it's all about attack, make it look pretty, you win games on defense. That's just the reality of this sport. You win if you have a better defense. And we don't right now. And Greg's a big part of that because he's constantly out of position. So that's my big complaint for him. Into the middle, Jeff again was very solid. He did get drawn into a few, kind of scuffles. Lost his temperament a couple times, went flying in instead of being his normal, stand-em-up self. So he did have a few mistakes on the day, but, for the most part, he's still that solid midfielder that just holds it down, wins the ball out of the air, puts a lot of good challenges in to keep them from counterattacking. So still thought he had overall a pretty good game. It just wasn't as solid as I'm used to seeing. Chris McCann, just a body out there. He's tall, he's big, he wins the ball in the air, and then that's about it. He doesn't really provide anything going forward, doesn't really provide anything coming back on defense, dives into challenges. He's just kind of a nothing player. So really frustrated to see he gets the start over Kevin, but I already talked about that. Up to the front four, a little bit better from them this game compared to the DC game. I definitely saw more effort out of Tito. I definitely saw more of a team spirit from Miguel. Joseph still kind of looked the same from the last game, but just to see them move and kind of work off of each other instead of just, I'm going to do this all on my own, I'm not going to care, I'm going to turn off entirely and not really help out. There was more from the three behind Joseph than there was against DC. And so that's why we looked a lot better going forward. We just couldn't finish because there was no movement in the box because Joseph is standing. But first talk about Emil. He was one of the players that I thought, even though he did make a lot of mistakes against DC, he did try. Same thing last night. He did put in good effort. It's just, like I said, he makes a lot of mistakes, and I don't understand how he can continue to make these mistakes. It's just, you win the ball back, great. You worked hard to win it back, great. Now get rid of it. Instead of dribbling into pressure, instead of dribbling and then losing it, instead of passing it to a defender, win it back, make a simple pass. You've got 3 or 4 players around you, use them. But he continues to make the same mistakes over and over and over again, puts our defense under pressure. Thankfully, though, like I said, he does work back to try to win it, and that's something that he continues to bring game in, game out. So I do appreciate that part of it. I just wish he cut out the mistakes part. Miguel, like I said, he looked a lot more like a team player. He was looking to combine and create instead of just trying to dribble everybody. And, that's something we saw against DC that I don't like about his game. There are moments where it looks like he feels that he's the only one that can create anything, and so he tries to take the weight of the team on his back and do it all by himself. And he's a very clever, creative player, but you can't do it all by yourself, especially when they packed in 6 or 7 guys. You're definitely not going to do it by yourself. So you could see he definitely tried to use his team a lot more in the game last night, but there's still too many moments where he's beaten a player, he's beaten a defender, he dribbled past him, poked it away, something. Now get rid of it. Now find the pass. Now do something with it. But instead it's just a few more touches and now the pass is gone or the lane is closed up, and so chance is over. So still frustrating to see he's still making mistakes like that. Hopefully he gets his confidence back though, and hopefully the players around him can help him a bit more. Tito did have a better game, mostly because he worked harder overall. But despite that, you're going from pretty much the basement. Absolutely nothing in the DC game was positive about his game, to just kind of better. It was kind of better, but not really good enough game. The two big examples that I want to harp on is obviously the first goal, terrible clearance, and then you just kind of like stand there and let the guy have an easy pass in over the top for a goal, and that was it. Just the lack of effort there kind of exemplifies my frustration with him right now. The lack of desire to go win the ball. You should want it. However, that didn't happen the entire game tonight. It was just very important moments where that popped up. The other instance I want to harp on is just the moments where he is in behind or he's won the ball back, he's been laid in, and then he just does nothing with it. He takes a random shot or he tries to beat the defender and then ends up getting the ball stripped from him. Moments like that, he needs to be less selfish. I don't mind seeing a selfish player if they're going to score. He's popped up with some really good goals for us. But when you're playing at right wing, you can't be that selfish. You can do it at striker, that's fine. You can't do it there. You can't go down the line and then get stripped and now all of a sudden they've got the entire left side of their field to play on because you're beat and there's nobody back there helping you. So he just needs to find passes a bit easier. He needs to keep his head up instead of looking down. There's the ball. I'm going to dribble, dribble, dribble. It needs to be, okay, there's an option. There's an option. I can cut this player and then lay it back. It's not happening enough for him. So kind of frustrated there. Joseph, I feel like I've already ragged on him enough. But, yeah, I mean, he's got to improve. You did well to start off. Came in, scored, 3 goals in 3 games or something like that, 4 goals in 3 games, and then you're out for quite a while. You come back, you score like 2 in 3 games, and then you're out for quite a while. And then you come back in 2 games back to back, you're just ineffective. Even the assist that he had for Assad, he didn't even mean to. He was trying to head it towards the goal, and he just ends up heading it right back across because he can't get his head turned. That's kind of a problem. Especially when you were such a big player at first, now you're just kind of there. You're not really providing anything for us. So he's got to move more. He's got to create more. Just help out the players around you. Move, create some problems for the defense. Don't just stand there and let them easily mark you. I guess I'll talk about the subs next. Well, last. Julian came on, and like I said, he's not a player that's going to change the game. But what he does provide is, for the most part, he does work hard. And I think a lot of that comes from the fact that I think he does want to play more. And so he does work hard to sort of say, I want to be on the field. But like I said, the quality is just not there. He doesn't have that quality that we need in the midfield. Jacob Peterson came on. Just a hard worker, comes on and changes the game through his pace alone. Something I think Kevin can do in the midfield instead of bringing on Julian. Bring on Kevin. I think he can do that in the midfield, but whatever. And then, like I said, Tyrone comes on, and his service was better. Gets himself the goal. Thankfully, didn't have a whole lot to do defensively, but the moments where they did start to break, you could see he wasn't there. He wasn't in the right position. He's still struggling defensively, so I still don't expect to see him start the next game. I still expect to see Anton in there just because he's much more solid defensively. But hey, at least he wanted the ball enough to go in and win the header that scored the goal. So I'll give him props for that. But yeah, that's about it for this game. Hopefully, first game back to Mercedes-Benz Stadium is our next one, September 10th. Unfortunately, I won't be able to be there because my job is interfering. But I'm hoping that they decide to open it up with a bang, come in, just dominate the game, go on, win 3 or 4 to nothing, show that these 2 games are just a blip. This isn't going to be the rest of our season. This isn't going to be something where it's like, okay, every single time we go away, every single time we have a break, we come back and we're just sloppy, we're slow, the lack of effort. I don't want that to be a thing. So let's show next game that we are a passionate team that wants to come out and play and dominate games and win. Not a team that's going to come out and just be like, oh, this is too hard. I guess, whatever today. So That's it for me. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on this game? Let me know. We can talk about it, discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Atlanta United reviews. I'll see you guys in the next game. Peace out.